Welcome back to the Untangled podcast, where we explore how plausible an obscure alternative reality really is. Today, we turn our attention to everyone's favorite red planet, Mars. Ever since we've been looking up at Mars, people have been noticing irregularities, be it huge canals, radio signals, or weird rocks that just happen to look like a face. And from that, some say that these are just signs of intelligent life on Mars. So grab your Mars rover, grab a spacesuit, and get ready to suffer the dust storms of Mars to discover if there really is life on this little red globe of dirt and rock. And before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Less than 10% of listeners are subscribed to our accounts, and it only takes a second to do so. We appreciate any support. Thanks. And welcome back, everybody, to this newly spectacular, out-of-this-world 11th episode of our podcast today, where we look at the conspiracies around us and beyond us. As always, I'm Simon, and I'm joined by a couple of friends of mine. First off, Han, introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are and what you're doing here today.
Hi, guys. I'm once again hosting a podcast together with Simon. That's what I'm doing right now, and other than that, I'm still studying, so...
And you survived COVID. Congratulations.
And I did survive COVID. Yeah, it was annoying, mostly. Sitting inside is honestly pretty frustrating for such a long time, especially now that the weather is turning better. It's just really annoying to have to sit inside and watch everyone go out.
True. Yeah, I mean, I've been living in Brussels for about almost half a year now, and it's finally getting sunny outside.
Poor guy living in Brussels. Oof.
But it was so great. Last week it finally started shining, and I'm like, I feel the rays. I could feel my depression leaving my body.
Well, enjoy it while it lasts. It's not going to last very long.
Speaking of people depressed under their current circumstances, we're also joined by my friend Kris from Canada, which is in the midst of their winter season, right?
Yes, it is. Actually, it did just start warming up, so it's a little bit better. But yeah, I'm Kris, and I'm excited to learn about some crazy conspiracies. And congrats to you for getting over COVID, Han.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more from Kris, we did a previous episode on foreign policy in Canada, my election podcast a while back. That was pretty fun. And you also study, I think like us, we all have studied foreign policy, which is pretty topical nowadays. So,
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. But anyways, speaking about things that are a bit less topical, Kris, you're somewhat of a out-of-this-world person, wouldn't you say?
Well, geez, don't be, you flatter me, Simon. I guess so.
Don't you ever get the feeling of standing in a field and looking at what could be beyond you, at what's out there?
Yeah, sometimes, you look at the moon and you're like, what's on the other side,
It's
okay. I'm trying to sound deep, but
it's a Nazi base. It's a secret Nazi base, right?
Oh yeah, that was the movie. I forget what the name was. Iron Sky or something like that. I don't know. It was like a really funny movie. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Iron Man, and I'm like, I completely do not have the same recollection as you do.
Yeah, I might have been watching like some rip-off Iron Man if that's the case.
But have you ever started looking not at the moon, but at another planet?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really into space. So actually that's what I'm doing. One of my research topic for my master's on, it's a space related topic. So I do think about it a lot. Yeah.
Geopolitics in space.
Yeah. I'm doing, my research paper on, the kind of like the politics surrounding the global governance mechanisms around space debris.
Oh,
yeah.
Debris. Oh, yes.
Yeah, because really there's it's just basically like country regulations, and then there's like some like international treaties that somewhat regulate it, but there's it's kind of open season there.
Yeah, it's littering in the Antarctica.
Yeah, basically. Really. Yeah.
Littering in the Antarctica is also pretty controversial.
I mean, it's a very similar topic because it's kind of regarded as like a common heritage of mankind kind of situation. Yeah. So those are very related topics.
Yeah, but it's mostly Canada that gets screwed.
Yeah,
when it comes to littering in the Arctic, it's usually Canada that bites the dust.
I meant Antarctica.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, I was going to ask you.
Antarctica.
Same thing.
That's wrong.
One has penguins, one doesn't. It's a big difference.
You clearly are you prepared to do a full podcast about space, Simon? Is this going to be okay?
We started talking about Antarctica. Come on, this is
you don't even know one planet.
Related aspect to Antarctica.
Up from down. on one planet.
Dude.
How do we know what is up or down? Come on.
There's no Antarctica, you sheep. It's just the ice wall at the end of the disc.
Exactly, and on the other side of the ice wall is some mythical place where giants live.
No, it's the disc is on top of turtles, and it's just turtles all the way down.
Anyways, I want to actually begin this episode by asking both of you, what's your favorite planet? A bit more tame than what you were going for, Han.
This is a tough one. Well, I mean, other than Earth, yeah.
All my friends live there.
Yeah, it's a pretty good place, grew up there, spent my whole life there, Let me see. Honestly, like, Pluto's pretty cool. I mean, it's not okay. Damn it, it's not a planet. I'm stupid. All right, wait, okay, but
you chose all the answers. You chose the wrong one.
But I meant just because
what's your favorite fruit?
Its moon
reptile. I don't know.
It's okay. It's not a planet, but its moon is literally like almost the same size as it, and it's the center of gravity between Pluto and its moon is like outside of Pluto, like they orbit each other. It's crazy.
Yeah, they're like aren't they known as like a dual system or whatever you call it? Because
yeah. I mean, technically, like I guess it would be more described as like a dual system, but technically all of them would be. I mean, I was gonna say Mars, but that's such like a basic answer. I was trying to think of something more like interesting.
You're actually giving an interesting reason to like it. I'm just gonna say Mars because red's my favorite color. So,
I mean. It's kind of funny because they always call Mars like the planet of war, the planet of conflict in most traditional cultures. All of them, because red was a color of conflict.
Wait,
which I thought was funny.
Are you sure about that? Because
it's pretty common amongst different cultures around the world.
Oh, is that why it's called Mars? Because Mars is the god of war.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was originally called Ares, I believe, something like that.
Well, Mars is the Roman copycat of Ares. So the planet probably wasn't called Ares because they might have actually.
Well, I don't know if it's like I don't think it's a before or after situation. I think it's just whatever culture like said that God was that. Like,
but
made it
traditionally,
Mars, right?
Red is associated with war because it's the color of blood, I think. And that's how it goes. But
you think? You seen some blood before?
Allegedly, some blood is blue, so I don't know.
Is it though?
Conspiracy.
Anyway,
that's another theory.
I would also say Mars is somewhat my favorite, just because it has such like you were saying, Kris, it's pretty basic, but there's some romance behind it, right? It's like our long lost sibling, right?
Yeah, and like every science fiction book like has the conflict between Earth and Mars, and that's like it still hasn't gotten old for me. It's pretty good. Yeah.
But I will say I've had some bad experiences with Mars, personally.
Whoa.
So I don't know if you guys remember this, but Mars is this thing where every so many years it comes closer to Earth in their orbit, and sometimes you can see it from Earth.
Right.
And me being, I think this was 10 years ago, me being a pretty excited young teenager was like, I want to see Mars. And the news was like, oh, you should be able to see it around midday in the sun when it passes. So I spent the entire day staring at the sun and trying to see a little dot in it. And I think my eyes are still messed up today from that.
Was that serious, or was that just them trying to mess with a little kid?
I don't know.
We're going to go blind some kids today. Let's talk about this on the news.
Look, kid, if you keep staring at the sun, eventually you see whatever you want to see.
Yeah, I was like, screw it. I'm going to see Mars. My eyes will heal in a few years. It'll be fine. But
I'm just going to burn my eyes until I can start imagining Mars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like when you're pressing with your thumbs like on your eyelids and you see all these weird colors and stuff.
Yeah,
Mars will be there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be there eventually.
I guess so. But I mean, this is a good segue bit into our main topic for today. Kris, can you guess what it is so far?
Space conspiracies, Mars conspiracies.
Nah, you're going really close there. How
Moon
about
conspiracies?
No, narrow in a little. Life on Mars.
Okay.
Does it exist? And that's what we'll be focusing on today. And I'm going to run you through some of the notable things when we thought life on Mars existed or not. Give you some examples of maybe proof of it or not.
I'm ready to believe, Simon. Convince me.
Before we start, I want to ask both you and Han, how much do you actually believe life on Mars exists? Right from the get-go. And I want to differentiate between life on Mars as the boring life or intelligent life?
I'm definitely like I can see the boring one. I'm not going to discount that because I don't know anything about Mars and Mars exploration. But the intelligent one, I don't know, man. I would like it if they just found that monolith there from Space Odyssey. That'd be neat. That's also on Mars, actually. Now that I think about it, or is it on the moon?
It was on the moon. In the
It was on
movie,
the
I
moon,
think.
yeah. Well, but I mean, if they found something like that, that'd be pretty damn neat. So I want to believe.
You're gonna see something like that.
You're gonna believe, all right?
What about you, Kris? Where do you fall on this?
Yeah, I'm kind of similar. So I could definitely see like some microbes, some boring stuff, being there. Maybe, in the lava tubes under the ground, or some little critters running around. But in terms of intelligent life, I don't really see how it would be possible. But I'm ready to be convinced.
Okay, that's a good starting point. Do you know anything about Mars? Any facts you guys want to list off beyond that it's red?
That it's not really red, is it? It's more like orange.
Sure. Depends on the day.
It sometimes has these planet-wide dust storms that last for like months, and it's just because there's like so little air that it like can last forever because there's like less air resistance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the atmosphere is 1% of Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah, and because of that, it actually can stay up longer, right? Because there's like less friction, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty inhospitable place. Despite it looks warm and rosy, right? If I can say it, but the average temperature.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a desert, Like you're gonna go
Tatooine.
Maybe massive. Exactly, it's like a massive beach.
Yeah, well, the issue is, it's the average temperature. I think is like negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit on average.
I don't know what that means.
It's cold. That's what you need to know.
Can we do that in Celsius for normal people?
And it's basically rocks and some dust from what we know now. And it's half the size of Earth. It's a sizable planet. But people have always looked up the sky and looked at Mars because it was an interesting planet to see. So we're going to start by looking at this guy, this beautiful Italian gentleman. His name was Giovanni Schiaparelli. He was an Italian scientist, astronomer, engineer. He was around in the time mid to late 1800s. And he liked to look at Mars. He liked to observe Mars, the planet. And he was one of the first astronomers to really point a good telescope at it and start writing down what he saw. And he became one of the first to document most of the oceans and, major continents within Mars. But while he was doing that, he also found something which he called canals, or canali. He observed over 100 of these, and people quickly started to believe that there were canals on Mars, and these canals were constructed by intelligent life. Have you guys ever heard of Mars canals?
This sounds like Mars is just one giant Venice.
Well, the idea behind it was that we know that there's polar ice caps on Mars, right? And they kind of had that idea back then as well. And they're like, these big grooves would take the water from the top and kind of transport it along the entirety of the planet to make it hospitable for the rest of the planet.
That's actually a pretty smart idea. Although I'm not sure why they would need to like create some like explanation like that when you could just like look at the Earth. We don't need grooves to like take the water all around Earth, right?
But we have oceans, right? Like imagine if we didn't have oceans and only the Antarctic and the Arctic, right? How would you distribute water?
Oh, didn't they think like those other dark spots were oceans? Never mind. I guess not.
He didn't. Not that from what I've read, he didn't. They kind of had an idea. It wasn't too, it was a bit inhospitable at times, but they had hopes, and they thought, those canals, they were the source of life that could bring life. And those big markings that he observed and he made maps and like mapped them out, those could only have been constructed by intelligent life. If you were a fellow person living in 1877 when he published these findings, what would you believe? Would you believe intelligent life did that?
Yeah, I'd probably believe it. Like, there's no other way to like explain it, right? For somebody in the 18th century.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to read in the 18th century, but if I did, I'd definitely believe this guy. He looks legit.
The Grand Astronomo. I love that title.
The Grand Astronomer, and he's got the grand stash to match it.
Yeah.
Very regal.
So he was an astronomer, but I'm going to add two quick caveats to this story because I think they're kind of important caveats. First off, he was kind of known for having really bad eyesight.
I was just thinking, are you gonna say he's blind? Because that would be a problem if you're an astronomer.
Okay,
He just drew this map. He's like, it's a prank, bro.
He wasn't blind. He was only colorblind.
Oh no!
Oh no!
So, I mean, he could see. But the other thing was that his eyesight was massively deteriorating, and a year before he died in 1910, he confided to a friend that from 1890 onwards, he published no new research because he became so disenfranchised of his own eyesight. So, and I mean, if you've ever been around an old person, they'll never admit when something's going wrong in their body. For him to admit that only years after he published his Mars channel findings, that's a bit of a red flag, if I can say that.
That's fair enough. I feel like he'd be looking at it and be like, I can see something. I can see
exactly,
canals.
But for him to recognize it, right?
You can see stripy stuff on it. Must be a canal.
And I'm also going to show you, keep in mind his bad eyesight, I'm going to show you what he saw during his telescope at the time. Han, feel free to describe it for our listeners at home.
Wait, that is... So I don't know if anyone who has bad eyesight like me, this is basically what it like a little bit of light looks like when you take off your glasses. It's just a very vague ball of orange.
Yeah, that's about what he saw. What do you think about this, Kris?
It's kind of, imagine you like took like a ping pong ball that you'd use in beer pong and you put it like 20 meters away and then took a picture of it with your phone and then zoomed in to like as close as you can to the beer pong ball. That's what it would look like.
It's it's like if you took that picture of that ping pong ball and you just screenshotted it about 1 million times and just keep reducing the quality.
You put it through the scanner.
Yeah,
like
you keep scanning it. You keep photocopying it, and eventually it looks like this.
Yeah. So I guess this is the first problem: his bad eyesight and his limited equipment, if we can say. But he still saw the canals, he said. But the second problem was his calling them of canals, because in Italian he called them canali, which translates to channels, which was mistranslated into English into canals, which is a bit different because a channel kind of means a groove. Yeah. Well, a canal implies water and waterways.
Well, that sounds like a typical English problem.
Yeah. However, I mean, he never denied this translation.
I feel like at that point, like he was pretty old at this time, wasn't he? I feel like he wouldn't care too much anymore.
Maybe he just enjoyed the fame.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe he's like, "Yep, I'm gonna go down in the history books for this."
Come to think of it, I mean, the English Channel is not a canal either. So,
well, around the time the Suez Canal opened, and that was the big thing that was driving the canal into people's popular lexicon. Because I think it opened about 8 years after his findings got published, and that was really on people's minds about, we can make canals. It's the big technological innovation of our times. It was the wet dream of all the Dutch, right, Hans?
Well,
but yeah,
I'm pretty sure we had canals before that.
So do you think, did his ideas get popular after the Suez Canal? I mean, or the Panama Canal? Which one did you say?
Suez first, then Panama was announced afterwards.
Do you think it's like one of those situations where it's like the new technology is always the thing that like people like will say is like we're gonna get like iterated on by like aliens or something like that, right? Like whatever is new, right? So like when like steam power like became a thing, people were like, yeah, in 2000 like we're gonna have flying cars powered by like steam, and all this crazy stuff, right? Do you think this is like a kind of case where they're like, people think canals are like, wow, this is what intelligent life does to its planet, right? Because we did it.
This is the most advanced thing ever. So if the Martians did it, if we did it, the Martians would have done it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I saw some people saying about it. Because it looks foolish just now, but back then, that was the pinnacle of technology to me. Those huge grooves into Earth.
Yeah, like it's basically like kind of terraforming, right? So you'd be like, okay, we imagine Martians are super advanced, so we have like 2 canals, and they'd have like 1 million.
100, yeah. He mapped out 100, so. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But from that picture quality. But anyways.
How do you see this cruiser gonna be massive?
It's called determination.
I can only see like a polar ice cap, and then nothing else is like very clear.
I guess I can see some brown spots on the side, but the thing is, I'm not sure if I'm actually seeing that or I'm just projecting on it because it's such a vague image.
Yeah. Well, anyways, People might have had some doubts, maybe, but he had a really stellar reputation in Italy and abroad, so his works kept being published and the mistranslation was kept inwards. And he inspired some others. So our next beautiful guest we're going to introduce here. Can you guess which one of these people it is, Han? Do you want to describe the picture?
Yeah, I got to describe this picture. So it's 4 people, and 3 of them are wearing a very interesting hat, which I'm kind of struggling to describe. Kris, help me out here.
Have you ever played Bloodborne? It's like
Yes.
It's like those top hats from the everybody wears in Bloodborne.
Yes, it's like one of those over-the-top Victorian little hats, but it seems like it's balanced on their heads. It seems like it's not. It seems all right. It looks like what is it? A record for like a record for a record player with a plant pot on the top of it, and they're like that's on their heads. And it doesn't look like the head's actually going inside the hat.
Yeah, it's like 6 sizes too small. Like the hair it's just sitting on top of the hair, not going in.
Exactly.
Like, onto their head.
No, it's not even close.
To the listeners, thank you for staying with us for 2 minutes of Han trying to describe a hat here. But
these are the hat. I mean, I feel like I did pretty well, and everyone knows what I'm talking about now.
Basically, the picture is of 3 Japanese fellows who are dressed in traditional clothing, and 1 North American dude just chilling amongst them.
I wouldn't have been able to tell which one it was.
But he kind of sticks. But anyways, this North American dude was a guy named Percival Lowell, who was born into an influential, rich American business family. You know, he went to Harvard. He developed an interest in astronomy there, but his other passion was Japan. So that's where this picture came from. I thought it was a fun side note. He actually wrote, I think, 3 or 4 books on Japanese culture. So, you know, he was one of those Japanophiles we know nowadays. So
he was a man of culture. So
he was a 19th century weeaboo.
Yes, your words, not mine. But anyways, he did really like astronomy as well. So in his later life, or a few years after his Japanese journeys, which he kept up throughout his life, he heard of this guy in Italy, our beautiful friend Giovanni with his amazing eyesight. And he was like, I believe this Martian canal story. I love astronomy. Why don't I go looking for Martian canals? And he actually built a huge observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona, called the Lowell Observatory, which is still open today and has actually really helped the progress of astronomy throughout the times. But he spent some time, you know, looking up at the skies. In addition to having the money to build one, he also apparently had the eyesight to look for it. And this is very important. And I quote Dr. Haskett Debbie, who is the leading eye doctor in Boston during this time. Percival Lowell's eyesight was, quote unquote, the keenest he had ever examined. So you got to believe this guy could look at the skies.
This guy's a looker.
Yeah, this guy's a real eagle eyes.
He's a keen eye, you know.
Just imagine him having like this plaque on the wall which says 21 out of 20 eyesight.
It's just funny. There was a quote which reinforced how good he was.
This guy could spot a little rabbit just across the meadow. That's how good he is.
It's interesting. Was this such a problem with astronomers back then that the press needed to like go to this optometrist to be like, is this guy, you know, is he legit, you know? We've had this other problem with this guy. He can't see a thing, man. Can this guy see? Can we trust him?
He's the best looker I've ever seen. You can trust me for sure. Yeah. God.
You know when you do that eyesight test and you have to read the tiny letters? He could read the tiniest letters to a T. All of them.
He could read them from outside the office, right?
He already knew them before he even came.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't even have to look at them. That's how good his eyesight was.
With this amazing eyesight and this nice big telescope he had, he looked at Mars some, and he discovered or rediscovered or retraced these canals that Giovanni Schiaparelli first observed. And Percival Lowell was a man who could, you know, stir up some drama, stir up some public interest because, you know, he was somewhat of a public intellectual. He was a great businessman, philanthropist, and astronomer. And he spent some time writing some books on his findings. He wrote 3 books on life on Mars, describing in vast detail the intelligent civilizations which must live there to create these canals. He described how he saw these canals. He noted movements in Mars. He even saw that there was shiftings in the polar ice cap, which he believed was the oceans like coming in and ebbing out. Like to quote from one of his books, we may conclude that we have a polar sea, a real body of water from his telescope he saw. He did say, to caveat it a little, he did think most of Mars was largely a desert just from looking at it. But that added more credence to his theory, which was once again that these canals existed to ship water throughout the planet to, make life flourish in other places. And he was adamant, until his death basically, that Mars contained intelligent life. To quote him again from one other magazine he appeared in 1907, "The planet is at present an abode of intelligent life." Pretty nice. However, in 1909, or by the early 1900s, late 1900s, newer telescopes emerged, and a lot of other scientists were looking up at the sky and not seeing what Lowell saw. So I think by 1909, it was pretty concretely kind of disproven because there were bigger telescopes which failed to see what he saw. However, his findings still captured the public imagination like no one had ever done before. What do we think of our keen-eyed man?
Are these drawings at the bottom his drawings?
Yeah, if you want to describe them, those were his drawings of what he thought the canal patterns looked like on Mars.
Well, let's just say, maybe this guy might have been the best looker, but he might not have been the best drawer. That's what I'm going to say. They're like
I don't know.
spider web looking,
Yeah.
geometric.
I feel like they've got a real Mondrian-esque quality to them. I kind of like them. They're aesthetic.
Oh, it's like more minimalist, right? That's
Yeah,
how you're trying to look at it? Okay.
It's got a really nice minimalist vibe to it with all the straight lines and then like angles and stuff.
Okay.
I like it.
I can see that.
It's like I'm not sure if that was his intention, but it did work out.
Here's another map he drew, which is a bit more finished, I would say. But
okay, this is a pretty good map. I mean, for what he, I guess, was doing.
Wow, there's a place called Utopia right there. This
And Elysium.
Yeah, these people had a really incredible imagination when it comes to Mars.
you have to imagine the way he drew this. He was sitting at a telescope, looking up, looking down, because you couldn't really take pictures at that time via telescopes yet. And I mean, this is probably drawn on his leg or something.
Yeah, this is pretty. I mean, I think it's relatively impressive, like with the lines and stuff. But
yeah, I mean, it's totally bonkers. I don't like. How would you even be? I feel like this is a long shot to be able to draw this. And I mean, I've drawn fantasy maps when I was a kid in my book, and they kind of look like this, without the squiggly lines. But still,
this is actually really interesting. It's kind of like this guy was like writing a fan fiction, you know? He was
Exactly.
just like, he's just sitting up there and being like, I wonder what it could be. I'm just going to make something up and say it's true. But then it's kind of nice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I thought his story was quaint because at the very least, even if he did turn out to be wrong, he did really inspire the public to get behind space exploration. And I think his telescope was credited in really, helping astronomers, discover other planets and really help observe other features about other things. So
I do think, though, how big would those canals have to be in order to be visible with a rudimentary telescope from that distance? Because you can't see, like, people always say, oh, you can see the Great Wall from space. No, you can't see the Great Wall from space. That's bullshit. The Great Wall is way too tiny to be, like, it's way too small to be seen from space. So if you want to see something with space, it's going to have to be really fucking big. So
well, you can see the Panama Canal. Oh, sorry, you can see the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal, right?
Can you?
I'm pretty sure you can.
I mean, it depends on like how far away you are in space too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is
also,
like I don't think you'd be able to see them from Mars.
Yeah. I mean, one of the hypotheses which people said could explain his seeing of canals was that he set up his observatory kind of weirdly. So some people thought that he was literally just seeing the cataracts in his own eyes, so the blood vessels. And that kind of got transposed because while he was looking at Venus, he also noted similar hexagonal shaped patterns.
Oh, wow.
But I feel like it's rotating, right? So he wouldn't be able to draw a consistent map if that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you trying to do this. I mean, and he did train some astronomy, but like back then you weren't a trained astronomer. There wasn't really...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, we should move on to our next person of interest, our next Martian believer. Kris, you're a fan of Elon Musk, right?
Well, I'm a fan of SpaceX, not so much the man himself.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I don't like the man. But would you be a fan of his 18th, 19th century equivalent, Tesla?
Well, yeah, I'd definitely be a fan of Tesla. Tesla was cool.
He factors into this story because he believed, and it was quite public about it, he could communicate with Martians.
Electric Wizard, Nikola Tesla.
That is the coolest title ever.
Yeah. So basically, in 1896, he said about his technology, because he was really big into experimenting with wireless technology, electricity, stuff like that. He said that, and a quote from him, "The possibility of beckoning Martians was the extreme application of my principle of propagation of electric waves." So his theory was that all his technology was kind of building up to being able to kind of communicate with Martians if possible. And he truly believed that they were out there. And I think he was somewhat of a fan of Percival Lowell's. So one of his big claims to fame is that he actually, got a signal from Mars. While he's experimenting with his technology, because it's still early days, he apparently started receiving some mysterious signals which he could not isolate the origin from. And the most prominent example of this happened in 1899 when he was conducting experiments in Colorado Springs with a new form of electricity generator. And Mars was kind of close in the sky. And to quote him, and this is from one of his books or one of the quotes, "My ear barely caught signals coming in regular succession which could not have been produced on Earth, or caused by any solar or lunar action, or by the influence of Venus. And the possibility that they might have come from Mars flashed upon my mind." ...
Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
Yeah. If we go forward, here's another quote that he said. Han, do you want to read the other quote he said about his time in Colorado?
All of it. All right. 22 years ago, while experimenting in Colorado with a wireless power plant, I obtained extraordinary experimental evidence of the existence of life on Mars. I had perfected a wireless received of extraordinary sensitiveness, far beyond anything I'd known, and I caught signals which I interpreted as meaning 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe the Martians used numbers for communications because numbers are universal. Tesla, 1922.
What do you think of it? Do you think he caught on to Martian signals?
I feel like it's very War of the Worldsy that they would communicate in numbers, or like Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I mean, what else would you communicate in?
I think that's what you start with, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Well, yeah, because like anything that's intelligent enough to like be able to communicate with you, like is going to be able to kind of like recognize a series of beeps or something as numbers, maybe.
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
That's. I mean, we have to kind of make some assumptions, right? But
well, I mean, he interpreted the signals. As meaning.
But he is Tesla, so come on.
Yes.
It is. Yeah, it was definitely.
He's a pretty smart fellow, but that doesn't mean he's right on every account.
I'd actually be really interested in seeing like if there's some explanation for what this was.
I didn't look that far into it, but it's probably just some kind of interference they hadn't picked up on beforehand. Because he was one of the first to be experimenting with this technology, so it was by no means foolproof. But there are like constant signals or like different types of signals you can receive from like different bodies just randomly moving.
Yeah, actually, I won't take too long with the story, but like the cosmic background radiation, right?
Yeah.
Some people were just like experimenting with some random like radio. I forget what it was. And they kept getting like interference, and they were like, "Where the heck is this coming from? It's coming from everywhere at once." And then they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is like the traces of the Big Bang that we're detecting with this like radio that we built." And then that's how they discovered it. It was like a complete accident.
Yeah, it's just because the technology kind of supersedes your physics knowledge sometimes. But yeah. Anyways, there's this cool rumor which he actually kind of fostered because he had it quoted in another interview where he actually said he built this thing. But he said, or people believe that he built what was called the Telescope, which was used to communicate with extraterrestrials. So
gotta love the 1920s where when you name something, you just like put your name in front of it and then like a hyphen,
Yeah, I mean, you're Canadian, Kris. You never heard of Diefenbunker? But that's for another. That's in the past episode.
Good stuff. Simon's favorite Canadian ever.
Don't get me started.
Diefenbaker.
Speaking about rivalries, have you ever heard the man Giuliano of Marconi? Marconi, I'll go with that.
I do, but I can't remember what he did.
I'm pretty sure that's a. That's a gangster from Batman. Never mind.
He invented the radio.
Nice.
You should have known
Really?
about it.
Why is it called a radio and not a Marconi?
Because he was humble, unlike
Ah.
Tesla, who was his contemporary rival. Since he was also very interested in just, radio waves, electromagnetic waves, wireless communications, hence the radio invention that he had. And he was basically kind of like the European equivalent to Tesla, except he was from Italy, which,
I mean, yeah, but Tesla was European too, so.
wow, American-based. I mean, it's like saying Elon Musk is from South Africa.
Was he born in South Africa?
Yes.
Really?
But anyways, my man Marconi, he created the radio. The reason I have this picture of the boat up. So do you want to describe the yacht that we're seeing here? It's just a big boat, right?
It is, yeah. It's just a very long boat.
It's quite beautiful, isn't it?
It's nice. It looks pretty neat.
So the story behind this, he built, and I quote, a super laboratory in his big yacht, the Elettra. So that's his super laboratory, which is a floating boat which he could go anywhere in the world with to conduct his experiments.
I love that. That's like a
Oh my
villain.
God.
It's
Yeah.
the
It's
coolest
like
thing
this
ever.
villain hangout that like goes around the world. Nobody can catch him.
Just a huge white yacht. It's like he was doing the Russian oligarch thing before I needed him.
This sounds like a good James Bond movie plot.
It
He's
does.
just sailing around and messing stuff up with his evil science schemes on his
Yeah,
boat.
I mean, to continue on the evil theme, this is all conspiracy, not really related to Mars, and I'm going to talk about it anyways because it's too cool not to mention. So if the podcast is long, my apologies. But apparently, during around the World War II time, or a bit before, he fell in with Mussolini, which was never a good thing. And then allegedly, he faked his death in 1937 and sailed off together with 98 other scientists in his yacht, and they went to Venezuela, where they set up a high-tech utopia city. Where they experiment with anti-gravity technology, with wireless communication technology, and with like free energy tech. And there are stories of people randomly stumbling on this mysterious city in the jungle in Venezuela and meeting Marconi and his numerous inventions.
I feel like these people use too much ayahuasca.
It's a cool story, though.
It is a cool story, but anti-gravity tech in the Venezuelan jungle.
I mean, it's Marconi. He could
Seriously.
have done it
I
with
feel
his super yacht.
people just ascribe magical and mythical qualities to scientists sometimes. It's like with the John Titor one, with the scientist that traveled through time, apparently. Like, oh, well, he's a scientist, and he's pretty smart, so if anyone could do it, he could.
Yeah.
The big numbers, man. You can do
Yeah,
it.
the big numbers man makes science go beep beep.
Yeah. Anyways, the poor ship. I don't know why I'm focusing too much on the ship. Regardless, the poor ship, well, not that poor. It got drafted to serve for the Italian military during World War II, or was bombed by Allied bombers and was sunk off the coast of, I think, Greece. And then, 50 years later, so in 1977, the Italian government was like, yo, we need to honor Marconi somehow. What did he love more than anything in the world? Of course, his super laboratory on the yacht. So they brought up pieces of the yacht and they started displaying it in places around Italy, which was significant to him. So there's like half the hull is like in this random town in Italy. So
Was there any anti-gravity technology there, or was it taken by the Italian government secretly?
I don't know.
How did they get the yacht off the seabed, man?
No.
You know? Just saying.
That's why they didn't get the entire yacht. It's because they couldn't manage to actually stop it from floating up, so it's on the moon now somewhere. It just kept going.
Yeah, that's what had to tackle with fighter jets, right? No. Anyways, the whole reason I mentioned Marconi is for the simple line that he also claimed to hear these mysterious sounds that Tesla heard, although different sounds than Tesla. So, yeah.
Okay. Did he have like some alternate interpretation? Like they were rivals or something, right? Maybe he was like, no, it actually means this.
He literally said they were also from Mars.
Oh.
However, the more conspiratorial amongst the conservative crowd was like, oh, this is just a marketing scheme from these two guys to promote how good wireless technology is, that you can listen to Mars with it. But maybe that was it.
That's not even conspiratorial, though. That's just, that makes sense.
I feel like
it doesn't make sense. I like the other explanation better.
We should bring that back. If Huawei or something was like, you can actually call Mars with our phones. That's how good they are.
That's actually going to be a thing eventually, you know? Like,
yeah, interplanetary phone lines.
Speaking about little tangents, there are so many cool things that I dug up doing this. What's your favorite day? As in, like, Earth Day or World Water Day or Autism Awareness Day. What's your favorite day?
I don't know. Hans, do you have one?
National Pancake Day.
Okay. Do you want to hear mine?
Yeah, go on.
Mine is National Radio Silence Day.
There's a day for everything, isn't there?
Do you know why there's a day for National Radio Silence?
Because I want to listen to Mars.
That's it.
Oh my god.
So in 1924, the US government promoted this thing called National Radio Silence Day, where all Americans were supposed to, on the top of every hour for 5 minutes, turn off all radios. And the American government even participated to create radio blackouts. So these two guys, Dr. David Peck Todd and Francis Jenkins, could use their equipment to listen for any signals coming from Mars. And this happened in 1924, from August 21st to 23rd. Pretty cool, right?
That is pretty cool. That's like it's like the first SETI, like search for extraterrestrial life,
And everyone is on board too. It's so cool how they're just like, yeah, I'll turn off my. I mean, imagine nowadays being forced to turn off your phone for 5 minutes every hour so that some people can listen for aliens. Nobody would do it.
But I could just imagine a scenario in which this was the rule. Like you turn it off, and then Steve in Louisiana or something didn't get the memo or didn't check his clock, and then they're all, we're getting a signal. It's Steve again. God damn it.
Yeah, actually, the people who live near SETI, I think it's like there's like limitations on the electronic devices that are around there. Yeah.
I kind of want to be like the aliens who were looking at Earth when this was happening, and they randomly saw the entirety of US just shut off for 5 minutes and then turn back on, and then do it again for like 2 days and never do it again.
The aliens are and then the aliens are like, they're sending us a signal.
It's 1, 2. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, quick, get on the super yacht.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, this was actually successful.
Oh yeah, we got a signal from Mars.
Yeah, so the big box thing that Jenkins is holding was actually a special thing he developed, which was called the radio camera. So what it did is it translated radio waves into pictures, because that's obviously how you send a picture nowadays, using radio waves. Do you want to see what they got?
Yes.
This is what they got.
Oh my gosh.
Allegedly, the zoomed-in image, if one of you wants to describe it, is a face. And that is proof that aliens sent us from Mars.
Yep, it kind of looks like a face, if you really look at it. I mean, that's like human... People like to see faces and things, right? It's like one of our...
Sure.
It kind of looks like a face if you really want to make it look like a face.
I really wonder what I can't see it. What am I looking at?
So it's like a profile view of a face. So it's basically a repeating pattern, which you can kind of see a nose, and you can kind of see an eye and like a mouth.
It looks like a dude with a mustache.
It's a face, right?
And he's also got a really scraggly little beard.
Aliens look different. That's all I can say.
Well, I'm not too sure about this. I feel like this is the same as like pagan people looking at trees and seeing faces in the wood.
Yeah, that was kind of the worldwide reaction, which is why you probably don't know about this, or probably didn't know about it, where people were like, yeah, it's not the most credible source here, man. Try again.
Yeah, they're reaching a little bit here, even for this time,
Yeah, I just thought it was cool. National Radio Silence Day. I'm going to observe that on my birthday next year. That's all I'll say. So, let's say... So this is kind of where most of the hype around Martians started to die down a little, because you kind of did what you could of radio waves. So the next step was to go to Mars and check for Mars life forms. And they might have found something. So in the 60s and 70s, they started sending stuff to Mars, like observers and stuff like that. But the one thing of the Mars program that I want to start off is that there were so many failures. As an extraordinarily amount of failures. So I threw up here quickly like a Wikipedia graph of all the missions to Mars. All the red or light red ones were ones which completely failed. The green ones are the successful ones. Do you want to say what the trend looks like, Kris?
It's like 50-50. And that maybe even a little bit worse.
60% failure. 60%
really?
Failure rate for missions to Mars.
What is it chronologically going up or down?
So the oldest is up top.
All right, but what are the blue ones?
They're the ones that are still going, or the ones that are traveling.
Well, this is good, though. This means we got way better at it at some point.
But, I mean, if you were hiding something in the beginning, that looks suspicious, doesn't it?
Yeah, because there's like this period at the beginning. There's like failures, and that's kind of to be expected. And then it's like green for a lot until like halfway, and then there's suddenly just like tons of red in the middle.
Wouldn't it be suspicious if one of those green missions found something which shattered the Earth, and then all of a sudden the missions after that started failing?
Oh my god.
The world views.
Oh, like so. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just like, shattered the world. Like,
Sorry,
maybe
all the metaphors.
Maybe it did. We're living on a simulation.
Possible.
So, I assume you've heard of Viking 1. So that was an orbiter that flew around Mars a bunch of times. It took pictures and sent it back to Earth. And that happened around in the 1970s, mid-70s. And one of its most famous pictures, to us more conspiratorial-minded, is the Mars face, which was caught on July 25th, 1976. Do you guys want to describe this picture to the audience listening?
It's a face. It's like a mountain. It's like a hill that looks like a face, kind of.
It's very creepy, though. It's got a bit of an eerie, especially with the black and white. It's got a kind of eerie look to it.
But this is a face, though. No doubts about it, right, hon?
No, this one is like you can actually see the face in this one.
Yeah, it does look like a face.
And how likely do you think this would be naturally occurring?
I mean, it could just be a trick of the light, you know? Who knows? I mean, it could be like the Mount Rushmore of the Martians, you know?
It's also it's a big planet. You get a lot of rocks, a lot of different light angles. It's possible.
I mean, Mars is known for having as we were saying beforehand, it has a much thinner atmosphere, so less light to play around with, they say.
Yeah.
Well,
also, this face was massive. So the length is about a full mile long. It was half a mile wide, and it was about a quarter of a mile tall by estimates. Pretty interesting. So this is known as the Cydonia face, or the Cydonia mensae. And immediately after the picture got released by NASA, they were like, it's definitely not a face, guys. It's just light playing tricks on your eyes. But that did not convince people. The public knew it was a face.
Surprise. People actually kept... Yeah, no.
Yeah. So... yeah, people claim, and there were even computer simulations done to kind of prove this was a legit face. This wasn't as demuted as NASA said it was. The light angles, there was no optical illusion here. It was definitely a face. So some guys even made computer simulations of it, which was pretty impressive back then. Anyways, do you know what would be more impressive? If they found more stuff around it which corresponded to an ancient civilization. Would that make you believe it more?
I haven't heard of this, so I'd be interested in seeing some of that.
Yeah.
So basically, around the face, there were a bunch of other big and weird objects, which is known to the full area is known collectively as the Sidonian complex, because there's the face, and then there's a bunch of ruins on the left-hand side, which people call maybe the city, and then at the bottom, towards the middle, there's this big 5-sided pyramid, which is in the middle, and geometrically aligns with where the face, the city, and several other landmarks are.
I knew about the face before. Like, I think that's like a kind of common thing that you kind of come across, but I haven't heard about this Sidonian complex thing. So this is pretty interesting.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, sure.
And it all kind of geometrically aligns in such a way where you can draw a lot of angles and lines, but eventually, if you draw enough, it becomes not as coincidental anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it could just be some rocks, you know?
Yeah.
True. I mean, if you look at some of the ways it's arranged, like if you even draw like the perfect like the universal
the golden the golden
ratio.
Golden
ratio. Yeah, that's it.
You can see the pyramid. If you draw the golden ratio from it, you can see the lines perfectly where the city is, and also perfectly where the face is.
Okay.
I'll interject on that, saying that you can find the golden ratio in a lot of natural things, like butterflies have the golden ratio too. So
yeah, but this is rocks, which should have occurred randomly, not naturally.
Yeah, but they occurred randomly. So like
randomly in the golden ratio.
Yeah, like I'm saying, nature has a lot of things in golden ratio.
Maybe not. What do you think, Kris? Because you seem pretty contemplative.
I mean, I mean, I don't want to be like a downer and be like, oh, well, like they could have just been randomly, but also, yeah, they could have just been randomly like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of cool to like imagine that this is like some sort of like we're looking down on like an Egyptian, like we're looking on like the pyramids of the Mart. It's really cool to imagine that. I can see why people would like want to believe in this and like kind of like come up with these, like even go as far as to like make a simulation to like kind of prove it, right?
Yeah, because it's kind of like you're looking at, and most of these people don't believe it's an active city or anything like that. It's what was once, right? Like it's been long abandoned, long destroyed. It's just the remnants of an ancient society. It's quite romantic when you think about it that way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like that's like the head is like poking out of the sand, and below it there's like a huge like Martian statue.
Yeah, like
I
Planet
don't know.
Apes vibes.
I do have a problem with ancient civilizations in space, because that kind of gives me a Fermi paradox vibe, if you know what that is.
Oh
If you want
yeah,
to explain for the viewers.
How do you explain it again? Yeah, that there's a high possibility, I think, that there would be extraterrestrial life, but that it's not very likely, that we haven't found evidence to back it up, which is odd. Like we should have.
Yeah,
And I think one of the reasons for it is that if we do find extraterrestrial life, it's probably bad for us, because if they died, that's going to be bad for us because they died of something that might be coming for us. And yeah, I think that's it, right?
yeah. That's the basic premise, right? Where it's like this guy did like a bunch of math. There's like Drake's equation, right, which says that there should be like built
10,000.
like yeah, exactly, like
10 to the power
thousands,
of 8 or something like that. Yeah.
extraterrestrial beings, but we don't see any of them, right? So that implies that there's like some things that we don't know that causes it to be like less likely. I mean, like
Right.
also it's just like some formula that this guy came up with, right? He doesn't know all the information, but it makes it
True.
seem more like mysterious, right? It's like there's something out there we don't understand that's like hunting like aliens down, right? But
Yeah. Which is honestly more scary than anything. Which is why I'm fine with not having any other life forms in the universe in that sense. I'd love for it to be like Star Wars or Star Trek, where we can just be friends and hang out. But I don't know. There's a lot of other alien movies that are slightly less chummy.
yeah, I mean, this might be a bit of a tangent, so stop me if we go too far. But like, do you guys believe in aliens? Do you think there's aliens out there?
I was going to ask this at the end, so maybe.
Oh, okay. We can save it for the end. We can save it for the end.
We'll save it. We'll save it.
Just
I don't
like,
want to jump the gun.
yeah, we'll just finish with talking about that. But
Yeah, you're the host here. I don't want to take your question for you.
no worries. Anyways, people were pretty, interested in this, and this corresponded to the time of the ton of failed Mars missions, which is a bit suspicious, wouldn't you say? We just saw this face. NASA tried to be like, it's no big deal, tried to cover it up, released no other images of the site, said it was just an optical illusion, and didn't have a successful mission there for another 20 years. The next successful mission in the area was the Mars Global Surveyor, who's going to make a flyby in 2000. And on that exact day, it was going to pass the Cydonia complex. There was, quote unquote, sequencing error, which destroyed the full day of data just for that day. So they had to wait a year, and it flew by again. And then NASA finally released these pictures of what they said it actually was, a bit more higher detail. However, believers in the Cydonian face basically say this is just it doctored out of existence. Basically, what NASA says they're doing, they said NASA is doing instead. So who do you trust? The guy in the basement, or NASA and their scientists?
Here's my theory. Those missions that they said failed actually worked out, but they were going there to send nukes, and they nuked the shit out of that civilization. And these are the pictures of what's left.
Yeah, they nuked them from orbit. Only
They
way to
did.
be sure.
Yeah, maybe, because that's a nice segue, Han, into our next segment, or one of our final looks.
Oh, intergalactic nuclear war?
Perhaps. So the question always is, if there was life on Mars, especially intelligent life, what happened to it? Because most people don't claim nowadays that it still exists. So there are several possibilities, which also kind of explain the barren state of Mars that we know it looks like today. So the first possibility was an asteroid impact, where in the northern hemisphere of Mars, people have noticed for a long time it's a bit lopsided. So the northern hemisphere is actually on average 5.5 kilometers lower than the southern hemisphere, And also the crust there is about 26 kilometers thinner.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So basically what happened a decent amount of time ago, maybe like a billion, a few 100 million years ago, a huge meteorite or asteroid crashed into the planet and basically destroyed all of its potential. So people actually attribute that to having such a low atmosphere because most of it escaped from the crash, and it also probably destroyed any oceans and anything that was there and just left it a wasteland. So that's what could have happened to the Sidonian complex if that was the case. The second, more juicier explanation, per se, is advanced by a guy with a PhD. His name is Dr. John Bradenbury, and he specializes in physics and stuff like that. And so the 2001 orbiter we talked about, it had a cool tool on it called a gamma ray spectrometer, which, is able to look for different concentrations of radioactive materials, which is good. However, it found some interesting things about Mars which people didn't suspect. So there was an extreme amount of concentration of radioactive uranium, thorium, and potassium in at least 2 regions of the planet, which, if you're looking along with us, you can kind of see that there was 2 concentrated zones where there's a lot more of these radioactive materials. Secondly, they also noticed with a future rover, I think in 2015, they discovered that there was an extreme presence of the isotope xenon-129, which is an isotope which only occurs knowingly to us after a thermonuclear detonation. So, what the hypothesis that Bradenbury says is that within those 2 locations, nuclear weapons were dropped at some point in time, extremely large ones, which resulted in these increased amounts of isotopes being released, as well as these radioactive elements being found. And what's even more cooler is that those 2 hypothesized target sites, one of them is pretty damn close to Cydonia.
I mean,
So they did nuke it.
Well, it would probably have gone before the American government. But
this is the American government
putting
their
happened.
conspiracy out to counter the conspiracy that they nuked Cydonia.
Maybe, but I think this would have happened thousands of years ago, if not millions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised a physicist would put this out, to be honest, because nukes would not prevent it from being able to hold an atmosphere. If we nuked the Earth, the Earth would eventually recover, right?
I think it was a combination of the 2, though. I think they would have lost. The asteroid would have happened, I think, millions and millions of years before the nuclear weapon stuff.
Right. But then how would life evolve if the planet was uninhabitable from the asteroid?
To quote Jeff Goldblum,
life. I suppose. Yeah. I guess if you can't believe the conspiracy, you're not thinking creatively enough.
Exactly.
What do you think, Hans?
Double timing. Oof, I'm not sure.
This was your idea. I must say.
What was my idea? The nukes.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I was saying American nukes on Mars, but this is not American nukes. This is some kind of historical nuke. But what I do think is that this means that we should be able to find some kind of fossils, right?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
That's will be my last point. But I don't know. I feel like even the fact that Cydonia, or at least the things we've seen, and the potential pyramid, the city complex, it makes sense if there was a huge, huge nuclear explosion. It could have wiped out a race. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll never know, I suppose, until we can get there. But the U.S. government, they sent all those missions to steal the artifacts before we could.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They already pulled out. This. It's like the opposite of the Christian explanation for fossils. Instead of God having put them all in the ground, the Americans just took all of them out of the ground already to lull us into this false sense that there was never any life on Mars. They just took all of it out of the ground and then turned it into oil.
Just for the oil.
My car runs on Martians.
They had to do something about the energy crisis in the 70s,
Well, instead of getting it from Russia, we'll just build a pipeline from Mars.
We'll just build a pipeline to Mars.
Well, I want to end on a bit of an optimistic note. And I love this story because it's true. and this one is actually true. Have you guys heard of asteroid ALH 840010?
I'm not.
No.
You'll be surprised because I think more people should know about this asteroid. I really do. I think it's one of the great travesties of science that nobody knows about this thing. So it was discovered on December 27th, 1984, I believe. My note did not have it right, but I'm pretty sure it's 1984 in Antarctica. So drawing parallels back to where we were first talking about.
Is this where the thing came from?
Anyways, American scientists found it. They took it in, and it was finally looked at in 1996 because it's like when you find a fossil, they put it in storage for a few years, and then you get time to look at it. Anyways, scientists were quite surprised when they looked at it because when they opened it up a little or looked inside, they realized it was actually from Mars. So it was a Martian meteorite, one of the first and one of the biggest ever found on Earth. So it was theorized that in an explosion or like another meteorite impacting Mars, it got blown off the planet 17 million years ago and landed on Earth. What is also cool is this is probably the oldest Martian meteorite we've ever found. So this would have been around the time when there were still oceans on Mars. So they opened it up and they examined the inside, and they found inside it these little structures which they thought, and they published a paper saying they had the likeness of microscopic fossils of bacteria. And this was published in reputable sources. And there was even a nice quote which Bill Clinton, while president, gave about this discovery to symbolize the importance for mankind. Do you want to read it, Han, and channel your inner American president?
I'm not very good at it, Bill Clinton. I'm going to try. Okay. How does Bill Clinton sound again? Today, Rock 84001 speaks to us across from all those billions of years and millions of miles. It speaks of the possibility of life. If this discovery is confirmed, it will surely be one of the most stunning insights into our universe that science has ever uncovered. Its implications are as far-reaching and awe-inspiring as can be imagined. Even as it promises answers to some of our oldest questions, it poses still others even more fundamental.
That's a pretty good voice.
Yeah, no, that was not bad. But no, basically, in 98, they believed that this was the fossilized evidence of extraterrestrial life. And it seemed to kind of hold up. The reason why we don't know as much about it nowadays is that most scientists get very, very skeptical or very hesitant to endorse anything as extraterrestrial. So the common terminology nowadays around it is that morphologically, that because they only have the formations within the asteroid, they say that morphology alone cannot be used unambiguously as a tool for primitive life detection. So basically, they're arguing that only having these fossils in rocks is not enough on its own to prove that these are actually life forms.
Yeah, like they're basically saying just because these look like shaped like what we would think life looks like, we need a little bit more.
But it looks exactly what you think life looks like, except a little smaller than what we've seen on Earth.
Yeah, these are like bacteria, right?
Yeah, they're smaller than the bacteria we know. So they're a little more microscopic than the bacteria we've commonly seen. That was the one key difference.
Oh, okay.
But basically, if you were to find extraterrestrial life, this is probably how you do it. And we found it on our own planet. It's kind of amazing, isn't it?
At what point would we be capable of actually searching for fossils on Mars? Because we have these rovers running around now, and they're getting, like, these things are getting pretty advanced because they're taking all this rock fragment with it. But
I think you need some like humans there because like I think you need, like, it's pretty like intensive labor, and like the machines are like, they can dig, but they can only dig in like one specific way that it was designed to dig, right? Like they can bore a hole down, but they can't like scoop out like an excavation site, right?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Maybe we'll.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more likely that we get these robots to be more advanced than actual humans going there and then excavating the place, because that is tough.
I suppose. I
feel like that's much harder than just sending those robots over, because you actually have to bring the people back and supply them with stuff.
Yeah, and even rovers, even if they could do it, even if they found something as clear as this, they still wouldn't accept that as proof of life, right? Because even having found that already, we wouldn't accept it.
Well, I think they would accept it if it was a bit more conclusive than this. It's just that this is too circumstantial, maybe, to constitute actual definitive proof. And they want to be careful with actually
Yeah.
making a very, very big claim based on circumstantial evidence. But if you were to dig up this kind of stuff all over the planet, maybe in slightly bigger variants too, then they could probably make more conclusions out of that. It's just probably too small of a sample size to actually do anything with it.
Yeah, I think I might have read this before, actually. Like, maybe, I think one of the arguments was, like, this could have been, like, formed by, like, heat or something. Like, you know, it could have been, like, a naturally, like, occurring shape that just caused, like, the rock melted in a certain way, right? And then these, like, beads kind of formed, right?
I think that was one of the arguments against as well, but it's kind of stretching again, right? It's not the simplest explanation.
No.
The thing is, you don't want too much doubt when asserting something as groundbreaking as extraterrestrial life, I think, which is why they're being so careful. So, like I said, if you do find structures like this in different scenarios that aren't like meteorites that crashed on Earth, then I feel like it gives a lot more weight and meat to your theory.
Yeah, definitely.
And Bill Clinton, he must deliver a lot of meat as well, right? National televised public address speaking about having found aliens. Come on.
Wait, what did you say? He delivers a lot of meat. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying something dirty.
There might have been something. There was a joke there.
There was definitely a joke there.
Anyways, that kind of wraps up what I had to present here. And I think we should start wrapping up this podcast too. And let's reflect on the first questions we asked about whether we think there's primitive life on Mars and whether we think there's intelligent life on Mars. Has any of this podcast convinced you otherwise? Kris, do you want to start?
I think you didn't change my mind, unfortunately, Simon. I think it's there could be definitely primitive life like bacteria out there. Maybe in the ice caps, there's water, lots of water there. Mm-hmm. But when it just like if there was intelligent life, I'm sure we would see something. You know, especially now that we have like tons of rovers.
You saw the face.
Yeah. But now we, you know, supposedly that doesn't look. I mean, if there was life still there, but even then, the face does have an explanation, right?
Yeah.
Like even if they're living underground, you'd like see like they need to be like holes or something for like heat to escape, right? Things like that, you know. So I just don't know. I don't think it is. It's
a big planet. The rovers have covered really nothing of it, honestly. They had a rover mission planned to go to Cicadia, or sorry, not Cicadia, to the Scindian complex. I forgot the name. My bad. But they canceled it as soon as the picture of the face, the public got a hold of it, because it was deemed too unsafe of a landing site.
Really?
Well,
yeah.
Interesting.
In the backyard there, basically. But anyways, yeah, no, that's fair enough. Han, what do you think?
Well, I kind of say I didn't know about that asteroid, and it does that does maybe convince me slightly more that there might be microscopic life on Mars, but I don't think there's actual meat to all the other stuff. There's no canals on Mars. That face is just a trick of the light. I mean, people see Jesus on their pieces of toast. It's not a stretch that you would see a human face on a rock. In fact, this is how a lot of mythology came about, because people just saw faces in clouds and random stuff, and were like, "Yeah, that's a thing. That's definitely a guy. That can't have been a coincidence." So I'm pretty skeptical about the face. Sorry.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I don't know. For me personally, the face, when I've previously read into it, I never believed as much. But I mean, it does kind of align with the nuclear sites. If we're going to tie those two together, and I love tying things together. I think if there was any site, it would probably be that. But I do personally believe that microscopic life probably is on Mars, and I do think that microscopic life is not as rare as we think it is. We just haven't been looking for it in the way that we should be looking for it.
Yeah, and we probably just don't have the tools, right, to like...
Exactly. We're still such a young civilization. I mean, even if we ever make it past this planet, which, I mean, every day goes on, especially here in Europe, that looks less likely, but...
Yeah. I mean, here's the question. Do we want life to be on Mars? Like, intelligent life?
Ooh.
You know, because if it's there, then we can't really just, like, take over the planet, right? You know? Like,
oh my
'cause
god! I mean,
it's-
you guys.
That never
you-
stopped
you-
us for North America, just saying.
I was just about to say that didn't stop you in North America.
we would learn from the mistakes of the past, hopefully, and not do it.
Nah,
but it's better.
nah.
It's more cool to think that there's nothing there, and we can build some really cool sci-fi like Mars base. You know?
The problem with it is if it were if there was an extraterrestrial life form, the good thing about it is that it would solve racism on Earth. The bad thing is about it is that it would solve racism with more racism, because we could just all rally against our hatred of this non-human species.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
it's like that movie in South Africa by the
Oh.
Blorgum guy. Blorgum.
District 9,
I
District,
forget.
yeah.
forget his
or is
name.
it District 10? I think it's
It's
District
9.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think District 9, yeah.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Do you want to ask your question, Kris?
So, do we think there's extraterrestrial life out there somewhere, like intelligent life?
I mean, infinity times infinity, and with the absolute size of the universe, I think it's not unlikely that there might be, because the universe is just too freaking big to actually discount the possibility. There's just too much out there that, like, if Earth was the only place with intelligent life, or life in general, that would be that would be pretty unlikely if you think about it.
Yeah, I tend to take the same approach. Like, statistically, it has to exist. The thing is, it doesn't have to exist anywhere near us and in any way that we'd ever be able to interact with them.
I mean, in fact, if it's not in this galaxy or Andromeda, then we're never going to be able to get to it anyway.
True.
With every passing year, we're just going to be less able to find them because it's just moving away from us, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, even within our own galaxy, like within a certain radius, like radio signals like decay. So, like, I think if it's like greater than 200 light years, like we won't be able to get like an intelligible radio signal, right?
Yeah.
And 200 light years sounds like it is a lot, but it's like compared to the galaxy, it's like nothing. It's like absolutely nothing, right?
Peanuts,
Yeah.
absolute
Yeah.
peanuts. Yeah.
No, I take that stance as well. I just think that people underestimate how big space actually is.
Oh yeah, it's like when you think about it, it like makes you kind of have like an existential crisis a little bit, right? Because it's just like thinking about like,
when you look into the universe, you don't even see beyond the Milky Way, right? And the Milky Way is just one of billions and billions of similar systems.
Yeah, which is all part of a galaxy, which is then part of a set of galaxies, and which is then part of like clusters and shit. There's just, for every level that you go higher, there's like there's just so many different things of the same type. And then when you with the Big Bang and just the movement in the universe, like pushing things away from each other and towards each other with gravity, it's just insane to think the fact that some things are moving away at such speed that even if we were to be able to travel with light speed, we wouldn't catch up to them. Like, it's physically impossible to catch up with things because they're moving away from us that fast. Just the entire concept of the universe, and I don't know that much about it, it's strange if you think about it.
yeah, basically it's like the expansion of the universe is happening faster than like light speed, or essentially like it's. Or like, because the universe is expanding at light speed, the like volume is increasing faster than you'd be able to travel it, basically.
Exactly, because the edges of the universe, everything is moving away all the time, basically, and like to catch up, you'd have to make up that distance, which is impossible. So
sometimes.
For now.
Yeah, sometimes real life can just be as crazy as the conspiracies.
Yeah,
you know?
or
I mean, we can just leave ourselves in the words of Albert Einstein. There is every reason to believe that Mars and other planets are inhabited. Why should the Earth be the only planet supporting human life? It is not singular in any other respect. And I think that should be our podcast for today.
Yeah.
How did you enjoy this, Kris? Thanks for coming on.
This was really fun. I had a great time. Lots of good laughs and stuff.
Yeah, I think this is a good episode, right, huh? I think we had a good one.
Shouldn't we say goodbye before we do?
Yes, I was going to ask the people, if you enjoyed this episode, you should check out our other ones, because they're also pretty good. But yeah, no. And then we'll say goodbye to them now after we've asked them to subscribe and like and comment and whatever they please. But just, anyways, goodbye, people.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.